On today's show, they blew it. The Timberwolves blew their chance to make this a series in Game 4. They had a chance, they had a shot, and they blew it. Who's most at fault? We'll talk about that and more on today's Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
And welcome. You are locked on to NBA Game Night. My name is Nick Angstadt, host of the Locked On Mavericks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being an everydayer, making Locked On NBA your first listen today. Joining me, as always, from Locked On Bucks. What'd you see in the NBA tonight, Camille Davis?
Man, a little heartbreak for Minnesota tonight. It's just like their best wasn't good enough. Well, we didn't even get everybody's best, but the best that they did get wasn't good enough.
We better hope that wasn't the best. We'll talk about Julius Randle, that debacle. We'll talk about Nickeil Alexander-Walker, the cousin. We'll talk about his good game. We'll talk about some of the other things we saw. Jaden McDaniels, Donte DiVincenzo had some good nights. We'll also obviously talk about SGA. 40 points, 9 boards, 10 assists in that game. 34 points, a quiet 34 for Jalen Williams, actually. And so we'll get into how the Thunder won this game, and then of course we'll play Count It Up, where we count the most interesting, fun things in the game tonight, including SGA's free throws. Are we making it out to be more than what it really is? And do we like Nickeil Alexander-Walker's nickname? We'll talk about that and more. Well, first, let's hear from our guy, Ben Beacon, Locked On Wolves. Oh, Ben, tell me about this game.
To lose a thriller in Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals, now trailing 3-1, headed to Game 5 in OKC on Wednesday. I'm Ben Beacon, host of the daily Locked On Wolves podcast, and this was the thriller we expected all series long. After 3 blowouts to start the series, we got a close one-possession game with the Wolves ultimately losing just by 2 points in this one. The defense was great for Minnesota. Despite 128 points for OKC, they were active, they were aggressive, especially early in this game. Despite trailing by 8 at halftime, the offense came to the party in the second half, but not from the superstars. Ant had just 16 points on 13 shots. Julius Randle only 5 points on the night. Instead, it was Donte DiVincenzo with 21 points on just 11 shots. Nickeil Alexander-Walker with a playoff performance far better than any other he's had this year. 23 points, 6 assists, made 5 threes in this game. But it just wasn't enough. Down the stretch, OKC made all the clutch plays. Yes, SJ had 40, but for my money, Jalen Williams, JDub, a clutch performance, some really tough shots, including some big threes down the stretch. He had 34 points, including 6 made threes. And Minnesota turned it over way too many times in this game. 21 turnovers, and also allowing 19 offensive rebounds were the stories for Minnesota, outside of the others, of Jalen Williams, of JDub, Chet Holmgren also, Minnesota native Chet Holmgren being awesome for OKC. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Wolves for all things Timberwolves.
Oh, it's a tough one. It's a tough one for the Timberwolves because they blew their chance, Camille. Like, this was their shot for them to tie it up, make it 2-2. Like, it felt like the Thunder were just giving them all the chances in the world. The SGA was going, Jalen was going, but they really, Chet Holmgren had 21, but they really didn't get much from anybody else. And man, you had a game that you almost won, came down to like 2 points at the end. Anthony Edwards has 16 points on 5 of 13 from the field, and Julius Randle only had 5. Like, it just felt like if they had a couple buckets go in their direction, this is a completely different story at the end here.
It would have been, because this has been a playoffs for like a Donte DiVincenzo that has not been favorable for him. So when you finally get a game where Donte is able to put up some big points, come through, efficient night from Donte DiVincenzo. He was even getting some clutch minutes at the end of the game here for him. 7 of 11 from the field, 5 of 8 from 3. Nickeil Alexander-Walker going off for 23 points. When you're getting contributions like that from bench guys, you would expect that that's going to be enough to push you to victory. Even Jaden McDaniels, he carried them early in the game with like 10 quick points for them in the first quarter. He had 22, but you just did not get enough from your big three, which was like the opposite of what we saw on the Thunder side of things, where their big three was the general source of all of their offense. And for Minnesota, they just could not get enough from their 2 stars. Like Ant going for 16 points, Julius Randle going for 5 points, your 2 stars combining for 21 points and 10 turnovers. Like, that's not going to do it.
Your two stars can't score the same as Dante DiVincenzo off the bench. You
Yeah.
know, like that, unless DiVincenzo's going for 40 off the bench or something like that. But you start with Anthony Edwards. I mean, it rises and falls on the star player. He was seeing doubles and sometimes triples and just multiple looks off the turn. Anytime he got the ball and tried to turn a corner, he would see multiple defenders right there. And so I get that it was probably hard for him to get a lot of shots off. He didn't take a shot until 35 seconds left in that first quarter. Ended up at halftime, only had 2 field goal attempts. And man, it just was brutal to see him try and create any offense. And it wasn't like he was getting a lot done with his passing either. 6 assists, had 5 turnovers, just not enough production at that spot. There's been some talk about him hiding an ankle injury or dealing with something like that. Maybe that will come out at the end. It's not going to come out until this series is done. But if that's the case, I wouldn't be surprised.
It looks like it. It looks like he's playing through something right now because you're not used to seeing Anthony Edwards be as passive as he was at times. And understand, you got to tip your cap to the way that OKC was defending him. And even Randle, they also showed a lot of bodies at Randle consistently. But you also saw in the second half how Anthony Edwards was able to generate more looks. The first half, I'm not sure if it was so much as a filling out process for him or what the case was. But the second half, you saw him attacking the doubles, trying to split the doubles, even if he couldn't get the shot off at the rim himself, just using his gravity to try to create for others along the way here. It just looked better for him in the second half, but it still wasn't enough. But for the better that we got from him in the second half, Julius Randle, I feel like saying he had a bad game could be generous because they needed so much more from Julius Randle, and he's been an X factor. He's been playing really good ball for Minnesota generally throughout the playoffs, something that people were wondering if they would see after what they saw with him from the Knicks. And then tonight, a night where they really needed him, somebody who was initiating the offense a lot too because of how the defense was playing Anthony Edwards. They just didn't get enough from him, not scoring wise and not playmaking wise.
Has anybody had a more insane looking box score in the series than this guy throughout these playoffs? 28 points in the first game, hits 5 threes. You're like, okay, insane. Wow. Then 6 points in game 2, where he has 4 turnovers and 5 assists. Then he has 24 points in that blowout game in game 3. And then in this one, he has 5 points. It's the ups and downs of Julius Randle. And it started from the beginning. I noted early, before I even knew what the final score was, I was like, first quarter, 9:43. Julius Randle just dribbled right into jail. He was guarded by Jalen Williams, and then he dribbled right into an Isaiah Hartenstein double on it. Just couldn't get anywhere with it. The very next possession, again, against Lou Dort, dribbled right into jail. 8:25 left in the first quarter. And then it happened again, a turnover against Caruso with 4:30. It just felt like anytime he tried to initiate at all, they were all over him and knew that they could get away with any kind of physicality or grabbing of arms or anything like that. And I don't even think OKC fouled him. I'm not even trying to make that case right now. I'm just saying I think Julius Randle was just really bad, couldn't get anything going, and those guards just shut him down.
They did. Let me ask you this with the physicality, because I thought both teams were playing really physical defense. The defense levels, it was high, which is why you get down to a 1-possession game to end this one. But would you prefer to see the game called this way in the regular season, or do you like that playoff basketball feels notably different than what we see for 82 games in the regular season? Because there was the Mike Conley block that he got. I was like, he is playing football right now. They are letting them play. Do you prefer this?
Well, and on that Mike Conley block, Jalen Williams grabs Mike Conley's arm on the way down too. So they both fouled each other. Guys would die if they allowed this in the regular season. 82 games of this, it's just not possible. We're already seeing guys get injured in the playoffs and be out. But yeah, they just couldn't handle the physicality. It's just, it's too much. It is fun though. It is maddening as well though. It's probably fun if you haven't watched a lot of regular season basketball and you're just tuning in for this and you're like, okay, great that they're just letting it go. Cause this was an entertaining game. You didn't have a lot of stoppages. What we had finished, I guess we finished with 49 free throws total, but it didn't feel like a lot of them came at the end. They were going back and forth there, but it didn't feel like we had a ton of stoppages. Didn't feel like we had that one quick review that was during a timeout. And so this was like a good pace to a game, but yeah, just tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough to watch this one, and tough to see this Timberwolves team go down like this, because they could have tied it up very easily. Like if they just had a little bit of a better game from Julius Randle, even the final pass, Julius Randle was the inbounder with 0.3 seconds left and threw a terrible pass into, like, was he trying to pass to Rudy Gobert? Like it didn't even make it to him.
I guess that's who he was trying to get that to, which I thought that should have been at least 0.5 on the clock for the Wolves, but with that entry pass, probably wouldn't matter.
Can we talk about this final play? We'll talk about how OKC won, but I just want to talk about this final moment here where, so Anthony Edwards like misses intentionally. SGA gets the board. He's sitting on the ground and he chucks the ball and it goes out of bounds, but a fan catches the ball. As soon as the fan catches the ball, isn't it out of bounds?
That's what I thought. And it was like 0.5 on the clock. It was 0.5.
And then the refs looked at it and said 0.3, which 0.3, you can get a shot off. Like classically, that's happened. Derek Fisher and Robert Horry and other people have done it, but
more difficult. I did not understand the timing on that one. But again, the entry pass that Randle threw, if it was 0.5, still wouldn't have mattered because it was a turnover.
Absolutely insane. Coming up, let's talk about how OKC won this, because they did go in and win it. The bigger story is that the Timberwolves are probably done here, but OKC, a clutch win for them in the playoffs. Let's talk about how they got that and more. Coming up on Locked On NBA Game. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by Wayfair. They got just what you need. I don't know about you, but I live in Texas and it's been hot for a little while, but it's starting to cool down a little bit. It's going to be 80 the rest of this week. Probably where you are, it's nice weather as well. And so you can go and refresh your outdoor space with Wayfair. Check it out. Perfect weather is the perfect time for you to take advantage of all these opportunities, whether you're working with a big backyard or a small balcony. It doesn't matter what size your balcony is. Wayfair has everything you need to make it feel more like you. Grab a new patio dining set, some string lights. Wayfair can help you extend your outdoor space as well. They have all kinds of different styles and mixes, things like that you can go and check out. Their delivery is free and hassle-free. I've used it myself and I love it. They deliver it straight to your door. It's awesome. Whether you're entertaining guests or just relaxing solo, shop Wayfair to help you unwind. Shop a huge selection of outdoor furniture online this summer. Go outside with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA Game Night. We have a daily show that covers your favorite team, Ben Beacon, Locked On Wolves. Rylan Stiles, he's going to be stoked on Locked On Thunder. He's just going to have a lot of fun things to talk about. We have fun things to talk about over on Locked On Mavs again, after not having fun things for like 2.5 months. And Camille, you got fun stuff on Locked On Bucks? Not really. I mean,
I don't know how fun Giannis trade rumors are for actual Bucks fans. Everyone else, fun for them. Not as much for us.
I'm surprised Giannis didn't get traded in our mock draft we're doing right now. We've had some big trades in our mock draft that's coming up pretty soon.
To that, over my dead body will I trade Giannis in our mock draft. Over my dead body.
It may happen. I'm not going to be responsible for doing it. Like, this is not what's going to happen here. All right, but you know who was responsible for making it happen tonight? That's SGA. He was absolutely dynamic in this game. 40 points, 9 boards, 10 assists, 5 turnovers, 13 of 30 from the field, 12 of 14 from the free throw line, which is probably going to be a big number. A lot of people talk about. SGA took free throws, everybody. SGA took free throws. But what happened, a lot of them came at the end. He was the one, probably 6 or 7 of them came at the end of the game where they were intentionally fouling and all that. But SGA, I thought, was just absolutely masterful, and being guarded by Nickeil Alexander-Walker a lot in this game. I don't know that I understand doing that a lot. Jaden felt like he was a better option on him, but they kept getting that matchup over and over again. It felt like he kept taking advantage of it.
He's a tough cover. He's the MVP. Like, he is tough to cover. And generally with players like that, you like to change it up a little bit where you throw different looks at him, just because if you throw the same thing at great players like that, they're going to figure it out, get used to it, and start being a little bit more efficient. But the SGA game that he had after the terrible game 3, the bounce back for him and JDub leading the way was impressive to see. Like, I feel like throughout this entire playoffs, that Nugget series in particular is when I was like, the Thunders are growing up. Yeah. But this was a game too where it was like the Wolves were trying to respond. You feel the energy in the arena popping back up. But here would come SGA with a bucket just to quiet the crowd, to keep the lead. Or it's Jalen Williams with a bucket, quiet the crowd, keep the lead, keep the momentum going. Just a really mature win, I feel like, for this Thunder team. And it was led by SGA.
You had that big moment in the third quarter where Gobert had that massive dunk on Isaiah Hartenstein. The Minnesota crowd finally gets back into it. Jaden then blocks Case and Wallace on that 2-on-1 transition moment. And then a couple minutes later, Dante DiVincenzo gets a huge three that makes it 77-76. Like that, it felt like Minnesota was coming back. And then SGA just responds. He just spin, fade. Anthony Edwards was draped all over him, hit the shot, and like just pushed him again. Like you said, like just pushed him a little bit ahead. Like it just felt like he had a response for every single thing that OKC there that the Minnesota tried to do.
Mature. And even Chet, like a game from Chet where it was quiet at times, but then he would make his presence felt really, really loud with the blocks that he was getting, the rebounds he was getting, the second chances he was able to get for his team, and then knocking down just some clutch buckets. But the thing about Chet that I'm the most interested in is the fact that it still feels like Chet is really figuring out the type of player that he can be.
Yeah.
Like the ball handling aspect of what Chet can do. Like I was watching him and I'm like, man, they like the handle is pretty tight for him to be a 7-footer. Like the growth that you continue to see from Chet, I think is super encouraging for this team because you know what SGA is now as an MVP. We've seen Jalen Williams now as the all-star, but to see Chet's development after getting off to the injury start to his career, like that rounding into form with what those two have going on is a big piece for this Thunder team, which is why it feels like, as you mentioned, this series is all about over. It feels like the Thunder seem like a team that will be playing in the NBA Finals.
The thing about Chet, after watching him in person for every game of the Western or the second round series last year against the Mavericks, that was my takeaway from him is that he was not to the point where he could create offense because he has every option in front of him. He can do so many things. He can dribble drive. He can run a pick and roll. He can hit a spot up three. He can hit a pull up jumper in the mid range. He can post a little bit. He can do so many different things. Like, so then his problem was like processing all of that. Okay, I have every option in front of me. I can't just go to one thing. Sometimes it feels like the Pascal Siakam, I'm just going to span that spin move over and over again. Like that makes it easier for you to process. You're like, all right, I got one thing I'm going to do, but I do it dang well. Or DeMar DeRozan, I got the one jab step and I'm going to pull up and hit a mid-range shot on you, right? Like if you have more than one option in front of you because of the size and your traits, that just makes it harder to develop and create and like fully process everything that's happening in front of you. And once he does that, I mean, it's game over because he is very good. He's like Wemby before Wemby, right? Like the season before basically came out. But yeah, 21 points for him and huge blocks. The block with 40 seconds left against Jaden McDaniels was huge, like absolutely massive. That would have made it, I think, 123-120. And then the free throw game would have been really tough there if they were up just 3 instead of 5.
Like even the reaction that Chet had after that last block, I was like, okay, Chet, it wasn't super like rah. It was just very like business-like, which is how I would describe this win for the Thunder. And you were mentioning how like Chet himself is a guy who can just have so many different options of what he can do. This Thunder team is a team that can throw out different options because I found it so interesting when they would go really small throughout this game with some of those lineups where you're looking at like Lou Dort out there with Caruso and SGA and Carson Wallace and Kendrick Williams, or you got JDub in the spot for Kendrick Williams, and they're just a small 5 unit. And you would think against a Wolves team that has great positional size across the board that those small lineups would be done for. But they were able to get things going while they had those lineups in. And then it's like, okay, now we can do a double big lineup with Hartenstein and Chet, or we can do a 1 big lineup and have like just the options the Thunder have. The versatility, that's what makes them dangerous. In addition to having the MVP, just being able to throw different pitches throughout the playoffs is such a valuable trait to have.
Well, they looked at this and I saw a lot of Thunder fans saying, when is Dagnall going to figure out that he should split the Hartenstein Chet pairing and just not play them together anymore? Because like the net rating split between them was insane. It was like negative when they were together. And then like when you split them, it's +10, like in either direction or something like that. But Hartenstein only played 15 minutes in this game. They decided to go with those smaller lineups that you just talked about because the smaller guys worked better on Randle anyway. It's not like they were destroying him in the rebounding game either. And so that they both got 19 offensive rebounds. The Thunder had 19 offensive rebounds and 17 defensive rebounds in this game.
You would look at the raw numbers and think like, okay, well, maybe the Thunder won because of offensive rebounding. But then as you point to, you're like, oh, wait, the Wolves had that too. Then you're like, okay, has to be turnovers, which the Wolves had a lot more
early.
than the Thunder. Yeah, but the points conceded, like the Thunder were +3 off the turnover points. It's just that the Wolves had so many, their offense wasn't able to get in a rhythm, and the Thunder were able to get more shots up too. I think the Wolves are lucky to end this game with the Thunder only taking 11 more shots, because at certain points it was threatening to be like 20 more shots than the Wolves got up in this one.
After the first quarter, where it was 7-point game, Timberwolves had 7 turnovers. I was like, if it keeps going like this, it's going to be game over again. Like, we're going to look at a blowout. And Randle had 3 turnovers at that point and just didn't look very good. Ant had only taken 1 shot in like the final 30 seconds. I was like, man, this game is not going to go well for them. And it was actually surprising how well the Timberwolves stayed in this. But shout out to SGA, Jalen Williams with some clutch buckets too, 34 points in this one. Like, it just, to me, it didn't feel like he had 34, but you felt that one of those final shots, the 3 he hit when SGA was on the ground, the minute 20 left, SGA like waves him off because Jalen was standing a little too close to SGA on the perimeter. And so then Jaden McDaniels, who's guarding Jalen Williams, could kind of shade over and show some help or get in the gaps against SGA. And so SGA waves Jalen off. Jalen runs over and kind of like in the close to the corner. And then Jaden still kind of stays where he's in the gaps against SGA because he can't just concede one-on-one against SGA.
Right.
And so SGA just passes it over to Jalen, and it's just he's on the ground and he hits it. He's watched him the whole way, and that was a massive, massive 3 that it feels like in game, in one of the games against the Nuggets, he wasn't hitting those. In this one, he
was there this time. And the image of SGA watching the ball roll out is hilarious to me as well. And I'm glad that's going to be part of the Thunder's 2025 playoff story, because that's a big play for them, because if the Wolves went the other way with that, we could be talking about a different outcome here.
Absolutely. But we're not. We're talking about this outcome. So coming up, let's play Count It Up, where we count the most interesting, fun things in the NBA, including SGA's free throws. Are we seeing something historic here? We'll talk about that and more coming up.
Big chicken, baby. Zion Williams and porn star.
Take that from that.
Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it up.
It's Count It Up. We're counting the most interesting, fun things in the NBA tonight. Tom Haberstroh, a statman, I guess you could call him, a statistician. He's got some kind of weird Twitter name now. He had this stat recently on one of his shows that I thought was just insane. SGA, before this game 4, had 110 free throws in his first 12 games of the playoffs. 110 free throws. Where do you think that ranks among all-time 12-game spans for an NBA player?
Now, I actually saw this clip, so I know the real answer.
Where would you have guessed? Because I think I would have guessed like 50.
Yeah, my initial guess, I was like, that has to be top 50. I was like, at worst, top 75.
Because who's averaging about 10 free throws a game? Because 110 over 12 games, you're like, all right, about. Right.
And I was like, that has to be like top 75. And when I saw the real number, I was like, are you serious?
We were both very wrong. 406th all time for most free throw attempts in the playoffs in any 12-game span. Absolutely insane. That's however many players have had so many more than SGA has. And so my question for Count It Up, though, is
Count it up.
Why are we making such a big deal about SGA's free throws? They talked about it on the broadcast like 3 or 4 times today that I saw people even complaining about his free throws.
I think once a narrative takes hold, it's hard to pull it away from that. And once the SGA free throw merchant stuff started, especially you see some of the free throws that he's gotten calls for, and the internet circulates those particular clips, not giving credit to him just being really good at taking certain angles and drawing fouls, which drawing fouls is a skill. Like, I know people were upset with the Harden years and things of that sort, but as somebody who has watched Giannis, who has been somebody who attempts a lot of free throws from a different play style, but also getting Damian Lillard and watching him, who's another guy who takes a lot of free throws, you really start to see okay, I see how guys get here and I see why they do it. Like, I have no problem with the way SGA goes about it now. That guy in New York, some of the things he does, flagrant.
SGA gets he gets no help from his defense on this.
Yeah.
Like the defense of the Thunder, because of the contrast between the two of them,
That's a great
it
point.
becomes that much more ridiculous. Because like Luka would do this on the Mavs, obviously, and like people would call it, but it didn't get to the point where they were like, oh, he's only a foul grifter. Because first of all, Luka would average like the most points without free throws in the NBA at times. But the Mavs defense wasn't as physical. And so there wasn't the contrast of like, well, he's not getting all these, he's not getting all these calls, or he's getting these calls that they're not getting called on the other end, basically. And I think that contrast has really messed with a lot of people when they watch this team. Because you look at what's happening with Caruso and Dort, like Lou Dort, man. I can't stand anytime he falls over a screen and just throws his legs up in the air. It drives me insane. Reminds me of last year's series, probably. But
Some flashbacks there of not positive ones for you and other Mavericks fans. But I think that's a great point of why it feels different too, because when you see what they got away, especially in the Denver series where they're playing, like, I can definitely see that.
Nickeil Alexander-Walker was one of the few bright points for the Timberwolves in this game. 23 points. He led the team. 6 assists for him. He guarded SGA a lot too. Hit 5 threes. Absolutely massive for him. The problem was he led the team in scoring, but ESPN kept calling him SGA's cousin or just cousin. My question is that a fun nickname for Nickeil Alexander-Walker? We've called Nah, but is it like the Bear where you call him cousin? Like, is that fun, or should he be able to make his own name?
He should be able to make his own name. Like, come on, y'all. Like, can you imagine being that guy? Like, you made the NBA, you're having a career game, and you're not even being called your own name. You're just being called cousin the entire time. It's like, dang, I know my cousin the MVP, but like, give me some credit tonight, please. Please say my name. At least say the initials. You can just say the last name. Just say something besides cousin consistently.
I think cousin is kind of a fun nickname, but I do agree that he should be like, we should call him his actual name, but calling him cousin, like in the Bear, how they call like Evan Moss Backrack's character cousin, is pretty great.
See, in my mind goes to Poetic Justice with Tupac when he go, cousin. I consistently go there.
Terrence Shannon had another spark off the bench for the Timberwolves. He came in, had 9 points. He had more than Julius Randle, and he only played 7 minutes, and Randle played 28 minutes. That's tough. But Terrence Shannon was a classic, like, young player that came in and had, kind of a lights out sort of moment. He had another one obviously in game 3. My question is this more of a case of like a young player that's in a positive way dumb and doesn't know any better, or do you think they have something there with Terrence Shannon scoring?
I think they have something there. He is another player that gives them the ability to touch paint, just kind of create some havoc in the fact that he can break down defenses, get to the rim, and from there do something with it. Now, some of the playmaking has to continue to improve for him, but again, he's a young guy. The fact that he can get to the rim, finish around the rim, knock down, catch and shoot threes, just give him a little jolt off the bench is a big positive for them. And let me also add, he was somebody I really hope the Bucks had drafted in the first round this past year, and they did not. So when I watched him, I was like, look at him putting that pressure on the rim, doing some things, giving the Wolves some juice here.
Isn't it always fun to have we wish that our teams would have drafted them teams? We gotta love that. Isaac on my show, like OG Anunoby was one of his. He just loved him. So anytime OG has a good game, he's like, oh, the Mavs should have drafted. Obviously, Desmond Bane for us is a really, really big one that they missed out on. This is interesting to me because Jaden Hardy had a very similar moment last year in the Western Conference Finals and even in the finals as well. I think there is something. I think Terrence Shannon has something for sure, but I think there is something to like the young player that like doesn't know any better and like just got there, doesn't know the stakes yet, thinks that they're going to be back. We're going to be back in the finals in the Western Conference Finals every year because they were here last year, and he's like, all right, I'm just going to go out there and hoop because this is just another game for me because I don't really know any better at this point. Like, I don't know. I'm a little naive as an NBA player. And so I think there is something to that because I saw Jaden Hardy do it like in person. I watched him do it and then regress the next season. I was like, ugh.
You hope the regression doesn't come. Sometimes
For
progress
sure.
isn't linear, but like that's the thing about young players that I think that you like to have on your roster as well, because they're going to push the vets. They're going to push everybody because they have that youth about them, just like that. Like if you have younger brothers or sisters or people with kids or nieces or nephews, and when you're talking to them, you're like, man, you have a lot of confidence right now for not knowing how the world works at all. Like if I wish that I could bottle this up and drink some of this on my days when I need to pay some bills and do what I got to do. But like, I get it. And I think for NBA teams, it's really important to continue to have that energy in the locker room to help push the vets, while the vets can help to pull the young guys along and teach them how to be NBA pros.
Thought I knew everything at 18, Camille. Thought I had it all figured out.
And then if you could talk to your 18-year-old self, you'd just be like, dude, come on now.
You dumbass. That's probably what I said. Last one. Nick Wright had an awesome idea on FS1 today. Did you see it? Did you see his take?
I did not see.
Okay. His take, he called it the take of the year. And he said, okay, here's the one rule change we need to make in the NBA.
Okay.
Players can call for a challenge on the court.
No.
So, but here's the thing. If a player signals challenge, it's just like a player signaling timeout, where they can call it, but the refs are able to take it, right? And so if you don't have a challenge, it's just like Chris Webber, where you're calling the timeout and it doesn't count. And so this would completely dissolve all the players calling for challenges. My question is, do you think this would solve the problem that we have? Or would it solve a problem? Is it a problem?
I was going to say, is this really a problem? Like, I can see it being irritating to consistently see players waving their fingers like, challenge it. Come on, challenge it. And it's like, you just saw your coach challenge and lose. You know you don't have any more challenges. You also know you did this. So what are we doing here? But I wouldn't say it's a problem, maybe an irritant, but that's an interesting wrinkle to it of it can have adverse effects on your team. I don't think we need to go that far, but I do find that interesting.
I think if they can call a timeout, they should be able to call a challenge too. It is called a coach's challenge. And so I think that's where it differs. But like, you're right, where Nickeil Alexander-Walker hits the wrist of SGA on that one play. I was watching it going, man. And then he immediately goes to the challenge and you're like, I know they're not going to challenge it because it's just so obvious, but it would immediately take away that moment. And for somebody that covered Luka for a long time, he liked to challenge a lot. And one of my favorite things, and I'm sad that I'm not going to be able to see this anymore, among many things.
I mean,
Luka would want to challenge something, and he would be like screaming at Jason Kidd and doing the challenge thing with his finger. And Jason Kidd would just stare up at the video board, and he would just not look at Luka. He would not make eye contact. He would just stare at the video board. It was one of my favorite things in Mavericks games.
That's the flip side too.
Ignoring him.
Because of a player like that, like if players had the right to do that and it would actually trigger the challenge, we would have no challenges ever past the first quarter.
Well, but I think they would stop. They would stop doing the trigger thing. Nobody does the timeout thing.
I don't know. Players tend to have an inflated opinion whenever a foul is called on them. That there is no way that this foul was on me. Ref, what are you saying? Then they're gonna go to the replay and be like, "Oh, actually, I guess I shouldn't have did that so early."
I found that very interesting. Last one, bonus last one. Did you see the cutaway to the guy in the stands with the red, white, and blue striped overalls and no shirt on underneath?
Yes.
Did you see this? Is this a good look or not? Fashion or not?
Not fashion, but it got him on TV. So it's a win-win.
I can't find it. I looked for a long time after the game to find a picture of it on Twitter. I could not find it. So funny. Red, white, blue striped overalls, no shirt on underneath it.
When he gets home, he'll make sure you're able to find that picture because he's going to make sure he reposts it. He's going to use it as a meme himself.
Oh, I bet.
Until it takes off.
I bet. Yeah. Fashion or not? Probably not.
Nah.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA Game Night. You know we're always fashion on here. We have all kinds of great shows. Matt, Hayes, and Doug will have you covered tomorrow with all the great takes. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On NBA. Boom.